Good morning, everyone. For our group, we received the muted group theory. Today is December 2nd, 2023, and this is for the course Intercultural Communication 176-502. My name is Anissa Gonzalez.
My name is Ashley Quiñones.
My name is Ariana Diaz.
Hi, my name is Rena Christian.
My name's Naomi Munani.
My name's Caleb Wilson.
And today we will be presenting on the muted group theory.
So for the muted group theory, we have three theorists. One of them is Shirley Ardener, which has been alive from 1925 till present day. Our second theorist is Edwin Ardener, which was alive from 1927 to 1987. And our third theorist is Sheres Kermay, which was alive from 1938 till present day.
Definition. According to communicationtheory.org, the muted group theory is defined as a critical theory concerning the certain groups of people who remain powerless compared to the others.
So for theory background, Edwin Ardener is a British academic and social anthropologist. Shirley Ardener specializes in her research in women's study. The two met when they were both completing anthropological research in Cameroon during the 1950s. This theory was further developed by Sheres Kermay. She is a scholar whose main focuses are women's studies and her communication. Her research specifically relates to gender, language and communication, technology, and education.
In the article from A Sentence Made by Men, Muted Group Theory Revisited, the reason Shirley and Edwin Ardener created this theory was to explain the lack of anthropological data then available on women to encourage anthropologists and others to pay more attention than they did at the time to spheres of communication and modes of expression.
What is the theory about? So the muted group theory circles around the idea of excluding women and keeping them silent. Not only do low power groups or marginalized groups are kept muted, they are overpowered by those who say what they want whenever they want. Ardener uses the term black holes to describe a muted group. He says because they are overlooked, muffled, and rendered invisible. And we got this from aFirstLook.com.
What are some benefits of the theory? Benefits of the theory. Even though consequences of the muted group theory may overshadow the benefits, there are still some essential benefits that came from the theory. It allowed the marginalized groups to find power in their voice, specifically in the communication aspect of it all. The hierarchy took advantage of their privilege in language superiority. And without the disadvantage, minorities wouldn't have gotten the motivation to speak out for what was right. Allow for changes within the muted group theory.
Another benefit of the muted group theory is that it could help bring awareness and light to marginalized groups that have been muted over so many years. People are able to recognize and be aware of the situation if it is brought to light, and being aware of the situation is the route to being able to not only fix, but improve this issue overall and maybe eliminate it as a whole.
What are some consequences of the theory? Ideas can be lost in translation, assuming men and women are the same in their own group. Both groups are misunderstood since they are different.
Some more consequences are that men would be considered dominant. Women would be considered as a man's property just because they would change their last name to their husband's, and it would make it seem like they're their property. Nowadays, women are no longer just housewives, but they have their own careers, goals, and aspiration for their own lives.
In the article, Get Shut Down Often Enough and Eventually You'll Shut Up, it states that sometimes these muted groups create their own language to compensate for their problems with the dominant group's language.
Activities applying to the muted group theory. A study conducted by the National Center for Education Statistics, or NCES, which revealed disparities in the representation of diverse cultural perspectives in educational materials and curriculum. The research available on the official NCES website, nces.ed.gov, illustrates that students from minority backgrounds frequently encounter a lack of cultural inclusivity in textbooks and classroom content, hindering their ability to relate to the material and feel fully recognized within the educational system. This underlines the importance of addressing the muted voices of minority groups to create a more inclusive and equitable learning environment.
Video activity, TED Talk, The Danger of a Single Story by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. In The Danger of a Single Story, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie discusses the ideas of a single story and how it affects marginalized communities in her TED Talk. Adichie's personal experience as a Nigerian writer serve as a warning against defining people of cultures in a single story. Though her focus on the value of many point of views, Adichie questions current stories that frequently exclude the silenced specific groups. Her story supports the muted group theory by highlighting the ways in which repressing different stories can uphold inequality and limit the complete expression of minority voices.
Okay, so now we're gonna play a little bit of the video after this ad.
Because all I had read were books in which characters were foreign, I had become convinced that books, by their very nature, had to have foreigners in them and had to be about things with which I could not personally identify. Now, things changed when I discovered African books. There weren't many of them available, and they weren't quite as easy to find as the foreign books. But because of writers like Chinua Achebe and Kamara Laye, I went through a mental shift in my perception of literature. I realized that people like me, girls with skin the color of chocolate, whose kinky hair could not form ponytails, could also exist in literature. I started to write about things I recognized. Now, I loved those American and British books I read. They stirred my imagination, they opened up new worlds for me. But the unintended consequence was that I did not know that people like me could exist in literature. So what the discovery of African writers did for me was this. It saved me from having a single story of what books are. I come from a conventional middle-class Nigerian family. My father was a professor. My mother was an administrator. And so we had, as was the norm, living domestic help who would often come from nearby rural villages. So the year I turned 8, we got a new houseboy. His name was Fide. The only thing my mother told us about him was that his family was very poor. My mother sent yams and rice and old clothes to his family. And when I didn't finish my dinner, my mother would say, "Finish your food. Don't you know people like Fide's family have nothing?" So I felt enormous pity for Fide's family. Then one Saturday, we went to his village to visit. And his mother showed us a beautifully patterned basket made of dyed raffia that his brother had made. I was startled. It had not occurred to me that anybody in his family could actually make something. All I had heard about them was how poor they were, so that it had become impossible for me to see them as anything else but poor. Their poverty was my single story of them. Years later, I thought about this when I left Nigeria to go to university in the United States. I was 19. My American roommate was shocked by me. She asked where I had learned to speak English so well and was confused when I said that Nigeria happened to have English as its official language. She asked if she could listen to what she called my tribal music and was consequently very disappointed when I produced my tape of Mariah Carey. She assumed that I did not know how to use a stove. What struck me was this: she had felt sorry for me even before she saw me. Her default position toward me as an African was a kind of patronizing, well-meaning pity. My roommate had a single story of Africa, a single story.
Okay, in the TED Talk that we just watched, summarizing it, just watching it is so empowering because it just shows how this woman was able to do so much. And even though people looked down on her and thought that she wouldn't be able to do much, makes me relate to my grandmother. My grandmother was not able to complete the first grade because they told her that she had a learning disability and that she would never get to accomplish a lot. But then she looked past it and past her skin because people were like the same thing, talking about her skin color as well. But she was able to look past it and she got to get her bachelor's and go to finish this first grade and go to elementary school and middle school and high school and accomplish a lot.
For the next activity that applies to the muted group theory, we decided to use a case study that showed the impact of muted groups on women in the tech industry. The case study that we found was from a university, and it gave a compelling example by showing the obstacles that prevent women to completely entering the field of technology. It describes in good detail the complicated chain of obstacles that women have to overcome in order to be able to fully participate and represent themselves in the field. These obstacles range from firmly established communication standards to the big impact of a workplace culture, because this field is mostly dominated by men. They revealed the statistic of women who are not allowed to represent themselves, which resulted to a 26% of professionals' tech careers held by women. This shows how women encounter or face issues that men do not have to deal with at all. This is a perfect example of restricted status of women's voices in the specific field. On the left, we have a graph that shows why are there fewer females in the tech. It's split up in 5 different categories. So 22% of women known tech is male dominated, so they avoid the industry overall because maybe some women feel like they don't have an opportunity. The other 22%, the tech work culture has too much of a bro culture as doesn't attract women to the field. So it's kind of the same as the last one, but basically women don't feel the need to go into a field that is mostly filled with men. Another 23% shows that schools and universities don't do a good job promoting tech career paths to women. They mostly guide men in this field and give less opportunities to women. The other 20% it shows that it's harder for women to get promotions or senior level positions in the tech industry. So maybe if some women do decide to stay in the field, they feel like, or they feel as if they wouldn't get far into the field. And the last 13% shows the recruitment process favors men, which basically shows that not only do they give women less opportunities, but at the same time, they don't look for women to be in their field.
So relating to the graph, as a woman that is pursuing a STEM career, it's very similar to my situation. I feel like nowadays a lot of people are pushing women to go into the STEM field because of the lack of diversity between men and women. And so one of the reasons why I wanted to pursue a degree in chemical engineering was for this reason. With my degree, I hope to close the gap little by little for men and women and just make it an even field, because I feel personally that men and women are able to pursue these degrees in STEM and impact the world in a different way.
Activity which applies to the muted group theory. In the game, some players find it easy to communicate, like a dominant group, while others struggle, representing a muted group. This mirrors how, in real life, certain groups may face communication challenges, making it harder for them to share their thoughts and experiences. By experiencing this imbalance in the game, participants can better understand the dynamics of the muted group theory. The discussion afterward focuses on finding ways to make communication fair for everyone, just as we would aim for in the real world.
For another conclusion, the muted group theory can be valuable in intercultural relationships by promoting awareness of communication imbalances. Understanding that different cultures might have muted groups whose voices are not heard as much encourages individuals to actively listen and create spaces where diverse perspectives can thrive.
The next two slides are our reference pages, and that's the end of our project. These are just the references that we use for each slide.
Thank you, class, for enjoying your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.